Everything seemed fine in Black Hollow. The town was quiet, with its residents going about their daily lives, unaware of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. Sarah was one of them. She had always been curious about the supernatural, but she never imagined she would find herself in the middle of a real-life horror story. It was midnight when Sarah's friends dared her to go to the old Black Hollow house. They had been telling ghost stories around a campfire, and the dare seemed like a harmless way to add some excitement to their night. Little did they know they were sending Sarah into the heart of darkness. The wind howled as she pushed open the creaky door. It was as if the house itself was warning her to stay away, but Sarah was determined to prove her bravery. Inside, shadows danced on the walls, whispering secrets. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and every step she took seemed to echo through the empty halls. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed through the hallway. It sounded like something heavy had fallen, or perhaps been thrown. Sarah's heart pounded as she followed the noise, her curiosity battling with her fear. Sarah's heart pounded as she followed the noise. She could feel her pulse in her ears, and every hair on her body stood on end. The house seemed to be alive, watching her every move. Her flashlight flickered, casting eerie shapes that seemed to move. The beam of light was weak, barely cutting through the darkness, and the shadows seemed to dance just out of reach. She reached a room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, and a cold draft seeped through the gap, sending a shiver down her spine. The door swung open by itself. It creaked on its hinges, the sound echoing through the empty house like a ghostly wail. Inside, an old rocking chair moved back and forth. The chair creaked with each movement, as if an invisible force was rocking it. But no one was there. Then she heard it. A faint whisper, barely audible but unmistakable. It sent a chill down her spine. A chilling voice whispered her name, Sarah. The voice was soft, almost gentle, but it was filled with an otherworldly menace. She spun around, but the room was empty. Her breath quickened. She could feel the presence of something unseen, something that was watching her. Just as she was about to leave, the door slammed shut. Sarah screamed. The sound was loud and sudden, like a gunshot in the silence. She tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if an invisible hand was holding it shut, trapping her inside. Suddenly, she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. The touch was icy, sending a jolt of fear through her body. She turned around, and her flashlight revealed a ghostly figure with hollow eyes staring right at her. The figure was pale and translucent, its eyes empty and soulless. The next morning, Sarah was nowhere to be found. The town was in shock, and whispers of her disappearance spread like wildfire. A voice echoed through the empty streets. She is ours now. The curse has her now. The haunting words sent chills down the spines of everyone who heard them. Sarah's friends couldn't believe what had happened. They gathered in the town square, their faces pale with fear and guilt. They had only meant to have some fun, but now their friend was missing. An old woman in the town, known for her knowledge of the supernatural, approached them. Her eyes were filled with a knowing sadness. She warned them that the house was cursed and that Sarah might never return. Determined to save their friend, Sarah's friends decided to go back to the house. They armed themselves with flashlights and courage, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them. As they entered the house, the air grew colder. The same eerie whispers that Sarah had heard now filled their ears. They called out her name, but only the echoes of their voices answered. They split up to cover more ground, each step filled with trepidation. The house seemed to be a maze of endless hallways and rooms, each more sinister than the last. They found clues that Sarah had been there. Her flashlight, a torn piece of her jacket, and eerie messages scrawled on the walls. The messages seemed to be warnings, but they pressed on, driven by the hope of finding her. Strange noises echoed through the house. Footsteps that didn't belong to them, whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The fear was palpable, but they couldn't turn back now. Suddenly they encountered the same ghostly figure that Sarah had seen. Its hollow eyes seemed to pierce through them, and a cold chill filled the room. They stood frozen, unsure of what to do. One of them, braver than the rest, tried to communicate with the spirit. They asked where Sarah was, but the ghost only pointed to a door at the end of the hallway before disappearing into thin air. They approached the door with caution. It creaked open, revealing a room filled with old, dusty furniture and an eerie glow. In the center of the room was a mirror, and in the mirror they saw Sarah. Sarah was trapped inside the mirror, her eyes wide with fear. She mouthed words they couldn't hear, but they knew she was pleading for help. They had to find a way to free her. They tried to break the mirror, but it was as if an invisible force was protecting it. The glass wouldn't shatter, and Sarah's image began to fade. Desperation set in. They didn't know what to do. The old woman's warning echoed in their minds. The house was cursed, and Sarah might never return. Then, the same eerie voice that had whispered to Sarah filled the room. "She is ours now. The curse has her now." The words sent chills down their spines, but they couldn't give up. One of them found an old book on a dusty shelf. It was filled with ancient texts and spells. They hoped it might hold the key to breaking the curse and freeing Sarah. They gathered around the book, reading the incantations aloud. The air grew thick with tension as they chanted, hoping against hope that it would work. Suddenly, an eerie light filled the room. The mirror began to glow and Sarah's image became clearer. They could see her reaching out, trying to break free. With one final chant, the mirror shattered. Sarah fell to the floor, gasping for breath. They had done it. They had broken the curse and saved their friend. They hugged her tightly, relief washing over them. They had faced the darkness and come out victorious. But they knew the house still held many secrets, and the curse was far from over. As they left the house, they vowed never to return. The haunting of Black Hollow was a story they would never forget, and the darkness that lurked there would always be a part of them.